Hey friends, it's Mary Giordano, and welcome to Unapologetically Wild. Every single day, you have a choice. You can stay where you are, or you can step into the possibility of something even greater. And I'm here to spark that flame within you and inspire you to show up, embrace the fear, and do the fucking thing. Messy, scared, and real. Let's get started. Hey friends, welcome back to Unapologetically Wild. This is part 2 of our creatine deep dive. If you're just jumping in here, stop. Go listen to part 1 first. Seriously, this won't make sense without it. All right, if you're coming from part 1, here's where we left off. We covered what creatine actually is, how it functions as your cell's rapid energy recycling system, powering both muscle contractions and brain function. We talked about why being in midlife changes everything: estrogen decline, accelerated muscle loss, slower recovery, sleep disruption, brain fog, the physiological realities that generic creatine advice completely ignores. You know, all that fun stuff that comes with aging. And we walk through the evidence, what the research actually shows for strength, lean mass, functional performance, cognitive support under stress, and mood regulation. The bottom line is the evidence is strong for muscle, moderate for cognition, preliminary but compelling for mood. But we left some questions unanswered. What about the myths? Is creatine actually safe? Will it damage your kidneys? Will it make you bulky? Is it just water weight? And most importantly, how do you decide if it's right for you? That's what we're covering today. We're going to clear up the misinformation, talk about safety with decades of research backing it up, and then I'm going to give you a decision framework so you can evaluate whether creatine makes sense for your body, your goals, and your lifestyle. Because this isn't about chasing trends. It's about making informed decisions for a body that's working harder than it used to. So let's dive in. First up, I want to tackle the myths because there's a lot of creatine misinformation out there. Some outdated, some fear-based, and some that just doesn't apply to women. Here's myth number 1. Creatine will make you bulky. Here's the reality. Creatine doesn't introduce testosterone or hormones. You're not going to wake up one day looking like a linebacker. You might gain 1 to 3 pounds in the first couple of weeks, mostly water drawn into muscle cells. That water is inside the muscle cells, not sitting under your skin. It's not bloating, it's hydration that actually helps muscles function better. And over time, if you're training consistently, you might gain some lean mass, but women don't have the hormonal profile to build massive muscle without some serious intentional effort. What you're most likely to notice is improved muscle tone, better strength, maybe clothes fitting a little differently as your muscle to fat ratio shifts. For most women, creatine leads to looking more defined, not bigger. Myth number 2, creatine damages your kidneys. This one will not fucking die. Extensive research, including long-term studies, shows no adverse effects on kidney function in healthy individuals. The International Society of Sports Nutrition, the experts on this stuff, have confirmed it. Creatine is safe for healthy kidneys. The confusion comes from creatinine, which is a breakdown product of creatine, which doctors measure to assess kidney function. Creatine supplementation can raise your creatinine levels slightly, but that's not kidney damage. It's just more creatinine being produced because you have more creatine in your system. I know, it's a mouthful. Just know if you get blood work while on creatine, tell your doctor and then they can just interpret the results correctly. If you have pre-existing kidney disease, make sure to check with your healthcare provider before supplementing, but for the vast majority of women, this is a non-issue. Myth number 3, it's just water weight, the gains aren't real. Partially true, but very misleading. Yes, initial weight gain is mostly water in muscle cells, but the strength improvements, those are real. The muscle growth over time, that's real. Water in muscle isn't fake or bad. A well-hydrated muscle cell functions better than a dehydrated one, just like a hydrated person functions better than a dehydrated one. And that cell swelling may even trigger pathways that support muscle protein synthesis. Research shows measurable increases in strength, power, and lean tissue that go beyond water retention. If it were just water, you wouldn't see performance improvements in randomized controlled trials, but you do consistently. Okay, now that the biggest myths are cleared up, I want to talk about safety, what decades of research actually shows. Creatine is one of the most studied supplements in existence. The safety record is excellent. Studies examining creatine use, even at high doses of 20 grams per day for months, or moderate doses of 5 grams per day for years show no adverse effects on kidney, liver, or cardiovascular function in healthy individuals. Long-term trials in older adults, including that 2-year study in postmenopausal women, report no increased incidence of health problems compared to placebo. I've been taking 5 grams daily for over a year with 0 issues, no side effects, no problems. The most common side effect some people experience is gastrointestinal upset, and that's usually only if you take a large dose at once. Instead, just start with 3 to 5 grams daily. You'll saturate your muscles in a few weeks without the GI drama. If you experience stomach cramping or nausea, the fix is simple. Take smaller doses, split it up, take it with food. So who should be cautious when taking creatine? If you have chronic kidney disease, consult your physician before supplementing. If you're pregnant or breastfeeding, there's not enough research, so it's typically advised to just avoid supplementation during those times. If you're on medications that affect the kidneys, like certain diuretics or high-dose NSAIDs, check with your healthcare provider. If you have bipolar disorder or complex psychiatric conditions, talk to your provider. The research on creatine and mood disorders is still emerging, and it's best to just coordinate with your treatment team. Everyone else, you're likely fine. All right, so it's safe, but how do you actually use it? Let's get practical here. First, dosing. 3 to 5 grams a day is effective for most women. If you're smaller, under 130 pounds, you might lean towards 3 grams. If you're larger or very active, 5 grams. Like I said earlier, I take 5 grams daily. That's what most of the research uses, and it's what works for me. What about form? Stick with creatine monohydrate powder. It's the most researched and most effective. Avoid fancy forms like creatine HCl or buffered creatine. They're not proven superior and they cost more. Look for third-party testing, NSF certified for sport or informed choice. When should you take it? Here's what the research shows. It doesn't matter as much as you think. Some studies suggest taking it post-workout might have a slight edge because your muscles are primed to absorb nutrients, but the difference is small. What matters most is taking it consistently every day, regardless of when. That said, if you're taking it specifically for cognitive support or you want to maximize absorption, taking it with a meal that includes carbs and protein can help. Insulin helps drive creatine into the cells. Just pick a time that fits your routine and stick with it. How do you mix it? It dissolves in water, though not instantly. Warm water helps. Personally, I add mine to my oatmeal in the morning, mix it in a smoothie, or sometimes I just mix it in water. You can also mix it into yogurt, pretty much anything. All of those work fine. What about hydration? This is important. Drink a glass of water when you take it and stay adequately hydrated throughout the day. Creatine pulls water into muscles, so you want to ensure you have enough overall fluid, but you don't need to chug gallons. Just follow normal hydration cues such as thirst, urine color, you know the deal. And despite old myths, creatine doesn't cause dehydration or cramps. Studies actually show that creatine users often have fewer cramps, likely because muscles are better hydrated. Just drink water like a normal human and you'll be fine. Do you need to cycle? There's no evidence you need to take breaks. Continuous use is absolutely safe. If you want to stop for any reason, you can. Your creatine levels will return to baseline in about 4 to 6 weeks. No withdrawal, no issues. When will you notice results? This varies by person and by what you're tracking. For muscle saturation, it takes about 3 to 4 weeks of consistent daily dosing to fully saturate your muscles. Faster if you load, but loading isn't necessary. For strength and performance, some people notice improvements within the first week or two. Others take 4 to 6 weeks. For cognitive effects, the timeline is a little less clear. Some studies show benefits immediately under acute stress or sleep deprivation. For baseline improvements in brain fog or mental stamina, give it at least 4 to about 8 weeks. The key is to be patient and track something measurable. Don't expect overnight transformation. That's not what creatine is about. So for the safety summary, creatine is about as safe as supplements get. Decades of research, minimal side effects, and no long-term health risks in healthy individuals. You don't need to fear it. You just need to use it intelligently. All right, so it's safe, it's research, but is it right for you? Let's walk through a decision framework. So here's the big question. Should you take creatine? I can't answer that for you, but I can give you a framework to evaluate your own context and help you make an informed decision. So let's walk through it. Factor number 1, where are you in the menopausal transition? Are you postmenopausal or deep in perimenopause? If yes, creatine is more likely to be beneficial. You're in that demographic where muscle loss accelerates, cognitive symptoms are common, and recovery time is slower. I know, feels like a fucking fantastic place to be. The research showing strength and lean mass benefits was done largely in postmenopausal women, but the mechanisms apply to anyone experiencing hormonal shifts and accelerated muscle loss, which includes perimenopause. If you're younger, say 20s or 30s, not experiencing any hormonal symptoms, you can absolutely still benefit from creatine, especially if you're training hard or vegetarian, but the specific midlife context we've been talking about doesn't quite apply to you just yet. Also consider, are you on hormone therapy? HRT might mitigate some muscle loss and cognitive symptoms. Creatine can still add benefit, but the gap it's filling might be smaller. If you're not on HRT, either by choice or because you can't use it, creatine becomes a more compelling tool for supporting muscle and possibly cognition. Factor number 2, are you training and how hard? Do you do resistance training or high-intensity exercise at least twice a week? If yes, creatine will likely enhance your results. More strength gains, better recovery, more lean mass over time. The evidence is clear. Creatine works best when paired with training. If you mostly walk or do gentle movement, creatine's benefits will be more subtle. It might help with muscle preservation, but you won't see dramatic changes without challenging your muscles. If you're not currently training, but you're willing to start, even with body weight exercises or resistance bands, creatine can support that effort. If you're unwilling or unable to train, creatine becomes a lower priority for physical outcomes. You might still consider it for cognitive support, but the return on investment is smaller. Factor number 3, what are your primary goals? What are you hoping to achieve? If your main goal is strength, muscle preservation, or functional performance, the evidence is strong. Creatine will likely help. If your main goal is cognitive, reducing brain fog, improving focus, the evidence is moderate. It might help, especially if you're sleep deprived or stressed, but it's not guaranteed. If your goal is mood support, the evidence is preliminary but promising. It's worth trying as an adjunct, not a replacement for other interventions. If your goal is weight loss, understand that creatine might cause a small scale increase initially due to water in muscles, but by preserving muscle during fat loss, it can improve body composition long term. Match the tool to the goal. Factor number 4, what's your lifestyle context? Let's start with diet. Are you vegetarian, vegan, or plant-based, or do you eat very little meat? If yes, you're likely starting with lower creatine stores, so you'll probably respond well. If you eat meat regularly, you're getting some creatine from your diet. You'll still benefit from supplementation, but the difference might be less dramatic than it would be for a vegetarian, vegan, or someone who's plant-based. What about sleep? Do you struggle with chronic sleep deprivation or fragmented sleep? If yes, creatine's cognitive and anti-fatigue benefits are more likely to be noticeable. You're operating in a deficit that creatine can help buffer. If you're someone who's well rested most nights, you might not notice cognitive changes as much. And then there's stress. Are you in a high stress life phase, demanding job, caregiving, managing multiple responsibilities? If yes, creatine might help you maintain mental stamina and physical energy under that load. If you're in a low stress period with plenty of downtime, the benefits might be less pronounced. Factor number 5, personal preferences and tolerability. Are you okay with potentially gaining 1 to 3 pounds of water weight initially? If that will cause you some distress, either prepare mentally or consider the trade-off. More strength, better recovery, potentially sharper thinking. Are those things worth it? And are you comfortable adding a daily supplement to your routine? If you already take protein or vitamins, other supplements, adding creatine is probably going to be easy for you. If you hate powders or forget to take things, think about whether you'll stick with it. Creatine only works if you take it consistently. And lastly, do you have any medical conditions that require caution? We talked about those earlier, so if you do, make sure you check with your healthcare provider before starting. Okay, so how do you actually put all of this together? If you check multiple boxes, peri, postmenopausal, training regularly, vegetarian, vegan, low meat diet, sleep deprived, dealing with brain fog, willing to add a daily supplement, creatine is very likely to be beneficial for you. If you check just a few boxes, younger with minimal hormonal symptoms, minimal exercise, omnivorous diet, sleeping well, no cognitive complaints, not interested in supplements, creatine might be a lower priority right now. You could revisit when circumstances change. Somewhere in the middle, weigh which factors matter most to you. For example, maybe you're in early perimenopause and don't train much, but you're vegetarian and exhausted from poor sleep. You might use creatine for energy and cognitive support and see if having more energy makes you naturally more active. Here's my recommendation for how to actually test this for yourself. Because creatine is safe and inexpensive, an 8 to 12 week trial is a reasonable way to evaluate. So you'll track something measurable: strength in a particular exercise, mental clarity in the afternoon, how many days per week you feel energized enough to work out versus not. If you see improvements, great, continue. If not, you can stop with no harm done. Individual variability is real. What works for your friend might not work for you, and that's okay. I mentioned earlier in the episode in part 1 that some people are non-responders. They might already have high baseline creatine stores, or their physiology just doesn't uptake it as well. If you try it and don't notice benefits after a fair trial, you might be one of those people, and that's fine, at least you know. The goal here isn't certainty, it's informed decision-making. You're not looking for a guarantee, you're looking at your own context, your age, your activity level, your goals, your lifestyle, and then deciding whether creatine is worth exploring. For many women in midlife, especially those who are training and dealing with sleep or cognitive challenges, the answer is yes. For others, maybe not right now. But now you have the information to decide for yourself. Now, before we wrap up, let me be honest about what we still don't know, because transparency matters. First, we don't have studies directly on menopausal brain fog. We have research showing it helps cognitive performance under sleep deprivation, but we don't have a trial that recruited perimenopausal women with brain fog and tested whether creatine specifically alleviates that symptom. We're extrapolating from related evidence. That's reasonable, but it's not the same as having direct proof. Future research should fill this gap. Until then, we're working with educated guesses. Second, menopause status and HRT use often aren't reported in studies. Many studies on older adults include women, but don't specify whether they're postmenopausal, on hormone therapy, or neither. That matters. Hormonal status might influence how creatine works. A recent review in Nutrients explicitly noted that despite decades of creatine research, its effects in females across the lifespan are understudied. We need studies that break down results by menopausal stage and HRT use. That would refine our recommendations significantly. Third, optimal dosing for cognitive benefits is unclear. Most muscle-focused research uses 5 grams daily. Some cognitive studies used higher doses, 20 grams for short periods. We don't know if women might benefit from different dosing strategies for brain outcomes versus muscle outcomes. More research could clarify whether, say, a short higher dose during periods of extreme stress or sleep deprivation yields better cognitive support. Right now, we're defaulting to muscle-based protocols. Fourth, long-term outcomes aren't well studied. Creatine improves strength and memory in short to medium-term trials. But does taking it for 10 to 20 years reduce your risk of sarcopenia, cognitive decline, or falls in late life? We don't have that data yet. It's plausible. Maintaining muscle and function should translate to healthier aging, but it's not proven in longitudinal studies. Science is constantly evolving. We make the best decisions we can with the information we have. Over the next 5 to 10 years, we'll likely see more research on women, brain health, and long-term outcomes. Until then, we use what we know, and we're transparent about what we don't. So here's what I want you to walk away with. Creatine is not a magic bullet. It's not going to reverse menopause or replace the fundamentals, good nutrition, consistent movement, sleep, stress management. But it is a well-researched, safe, and potentially valuable tool for women navigating the specific challenges of midlife. The evidence is strongest for muscle and strength. If you're training and you want to preserve lean mass, get stronger, and maintain functional capacity, creatine is one of the most evidence-backed supplements you can use. The evidence for cognitive support is emerging. If you're struggling with mental fatigue, operating on poor sleep, or under chronic stress, creatine might help buffer some of that. It's not guaranteed, but the risk is low and the potential upside is real. The evidence for mood is preliminary but compelling. If you're dealing with depression and already on treatment, creatine might enhance your response. If you're just feeling the emotional weight of midlife, it could support your resilience, though it's not a standalone solution. So here's what to do next. If all of this resonates, if you're in the demographic where muscle loss, brain fog, or fatigue are real issues, consider trying creatine for 8 to 12 weeks. Keep it simple, 3 to 5 grams of creatine monohydrate daily, no loading phase, same time every day. Track 2 things, 1 physical and 1 mental. Physical could be how many reps you can do on squats, leg press, step-ups, or even sit to stands. Mental could be afternoon brain fog, focus, or how wrecked you feel after a bad night of sleep. See if it makes a difference for you. If it does, you found a tool that works. If it doesn't, you've lost nothing. Stop taking it and move on. And remember, this isn't about optimization. It's not about becoming superhuman or reversing aging. It's about supporting your body through a major physiological transition so you can stay strong, capable, and clear-headed. So you can carry your own luggage. Remember what you walked into the room for. Feel solid in your own body. That's the goal. Creatine might help you get there, or it might not. But here's what it does promise. Support. Not magic, not a fix, just solid, research-backed support. And now you have the information to decide if that's what you need. And lastly, I have to include this. It's not the most exciting part of this podcast, but it's a requirement to remind you that I'm not a doctor, scientist, or medical expert. I'm your guide, not your prescriber. This podcast is for informational purposes only. I bring you research-backed conversations so you can ask better questions and make informed decisions, not to give you personal medical advice. That's it. You now have the evidence and context most people aren't getting online or anywhere else. Use it well. Thanks for tuning in today. If this episode hit home, subscribe and share it with a friend, because together we can bring more women into this wild, unapologetic space. Remember, waiting until you feel ready is the fastest way to nowhere. So show up, embrace the fear, and do the fucking thing. And don't forget to subscribe to my Unapologetically Wild Chronicles. The links to the show notes. Until next time, stay wild.